To start off, I do not turn off my AC for my recordings because it is hot as fuck outside. Second off, this is partially scripted and partially ad-libbed, so if you hear any fuck-ups, I don't care. Welcome to Random as Hell. Let's talk about American Dad. This show is actually quite impressive as it actually held off seasonal rot for quite a long time. American Dad was created by Seth MacFarlane and originally aired on Fox and was moved to TBS and is still running to this day. But the big difference now is, after several years, it did hit seasonal rot actually. Not totally. I still praise the show, but it hits its peak probably around season 9 or 10. But I think it really took a turn when it went from Fox to TBS for one. So let's get down into it. American Dad is, well, an interesting show for me because Seth MacFarlane, who's had his monster hit with Family Guy, which is now kind of seen in a horrible light, and his complete flop of The Cleveland Show, plus his movie career, which wasn't really that good either. I mean, some people praised Ted. I completely hated it. But American Dad, for me, didn't get old for a long time, actually. It was fairly good for a long time, which is very rare of a lot of shows. I mean, hell, even with Rick and Morty, I know there's a big divide on that too, but it's not as good as it was, just a season ago or 2 seasons ago. And there go my notes. Wow. Basically, seasonal rot can hit fast, and I am actually very well praising this show for keeping it off as long as it did. Basically, with American Dad, it started off kind of rough, but it seemed to have evened itself out by probably around season 3, and then it kept that good momentum going for quite a while. I liked the show for a long time. The thing I really think hit it bad later in the seasons, and it's not a horrible show now, it's just not as good as it used to be. I think what really hit it actually was its move to TBS, believe it or not. Because I've noticed this with Seth MacFarlane. When you give him more free reign, you got a problem. He tends to take things too far. Basically, him and his crew, when you give them limitations, they tend to be very creative. And when you take those limitations away, it tends to lead to lull, random, inappropriate humor that can be funny somewhat, but when overused is just kind of boring after a while. And I've seen that with the show, especially with TBS's style of advertising when they came out on there. They basically said, this show is going to be raunchier on here, and that's why it's going to be better. And it wasn't. It was okay, but it wasn't as good as before for me. I think the show really took a dive when it hit there. I mean, hell, you can even see, I think this was the first episode that aired on TBS was American Fung. And that episode sucked. It's one of my least favorite of the series. And when I first saw that, I was like, oh, Jesus, I hope it doesn't get that bad from here on. And it didn't. It was still okay. There's some stuff that I like on the show to this day. I just don't think it's as good as it was. The one thing I can tell you is what they tried to really play on was that they could get away with more. Like, they did a lot more sexual innuendos, a lot more intimate details about stuff. They even talked about, I remember seeing a thing about, they're allowed to, when they showed women in bikinis and stuff, they're allowed to bring it down a size to show a little bit more boob, which is really not a selling point. The main thing I remember people talking about was they get to say shit now. Twice an episode. But after knowing that information, it actually kind of ruined it for me because I now can just see when they say it twice, and I'm like, oh, well, that's it. Then the rest of them are going to be censored or they're not going to say them anymore. So that kind of threw me off there. But at least, if this makes a weird cut right here, I'm doing this on a weird app trying to make this, so we'll see what happens with the recording. Just coming up, this is my first video, so I really don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm just trying it out for fun. And if you don't like it, fuck you. So, I don't care. The big difference, though, is with this and Family Guy, though, was Family Guy's seasonal rot came up fairly quickly compared to this show. I'd say probably around season 5 or 6, it started to go downhill. And I'm fine with a little bit of the later seasons of Family Guy, personally. I mean, I kind of watch the show again, and even the older episodes now, I'm just like, I've seen it so much, and it's gotten so ingrained in the culture that I'm just like, oh, haha, yeah, I remember that, haha, great. But Family Guy hit a seasonal rot way quicker than this, I think. And to be fair, Family Guy seasonal rot went way worse. There is some fucked up shit on American Dad that obviously it's with them getting a little more creativity or less creative because they have more freedom. But Family Guy is now shock humor for the sake of shock, as American Dad still has some creativity behind it somewhat. I mean, it's not the best in the world, but it's not like they're completely abandoning their creativity like Family Guy did. And the less we say about the Cleveland show, the better. That was a fucking mess. I hated that idea from the beginning. Just because Cleveland was never really a character to really spin off of. He was kind of a background character. You know? I mean, I really don't think there's any character in Family Guy strong enough to really, like, spin off or anything. Just my personal opinion. They're not well written. They're usually one-note characters. Cleveland, black guy, Joe, cripple, quagmire, sex addict. That's about it. They're all very one-note. Even the main cast of that show is very one-note. But you see here in American Dad, there's actually a really interesting difference. They're not very much one-note characters as much. I will still say they are kind of one-note, but they seem to have grown throughout the series, and it's not as bad as Family Guy's cast. They're still fairly one-note, but they seem to have a little more complex character to them. But the other thing is, these characters in American Dad are just a little more likable, you know? I mean, excluding the secondary supporting character cast on Family Guy, because I don't really have many problems with them except for Quagmire being a rapist. That's kind of fucked up. The main cast of Family Guy is very unlikable. I mean, they're all kind of assholes in their own light. And I always fucking hated them, especially in the later seasons. But American Dad, even though they have flaws, it's still not as bad as Family Guy. They're still fun to be around, basically. I mean, Roger's one of the worst fucking things in existence, but it's hilarious to see what he gets up to every week. You know, even though Haley's a fucking hippie annoyance, you can still root for her in a situation. You know, she gets annoying sometimes, but it's not as bad as fucking Brian with his fucking complete political agenda bullshit. And they're not written like mouthpieces for the creators. They're written like people with opposing views. That's kind of why I see it as. Ironically, the more politically charged show is less politically divisive, which to me is actually kind of interesting. Because Family Guy, as it went on, got really bad with trying to push a political agenda, and that's all they wanted to do, blah, blah, blah. I fucking hated it after a while. That got really annoying to me. But American Dad had that at first, and then they zoned out of it. They kind of grew out of it, which actually made the series even better. So, basically, it's the one Seth MacFarlane show I still watch. That's basically where we're at. I don't really watch Family Guy anymore because I'm sick of it. old and new. They're just really annoying to me now. But American Dad, I'll still watch for a lot of fun, and I'll give you more of my opinions on shows as this channel grows. Basically, American Dad is probably my third favorite modern day TV show. Let me rephrase that. My third current favorite, maybe fourth animated modern TV show. Right behind probably King of the Hill's on top, which never really got seasonal rot at all. The Simpsons, old Simpsons, is my second favorite, with probably my third being a tie between this and Rick and Morty, because they were good shows but are starting to hit seasonal rot. And that's basically my opinion on this. I mean, I'll keep making videos. I'm probably going to start going through these series completely one episode at a time. Mainly when the shows end. So I'll probably do King of the Hill first because it's actually ended. And it's not just going to be animated series. It's going to be, anything I want to watch. Maybe I'll do some movie reviews and stuff like that. I just want to keep going. And it's not just going to be TV on this channel. Again, random as hell. It's going to be whatever the fuck I feel like. So, if you want to keep up, you can keep up. If you don't, I really don't care. I'm doing this for fun. I'm not doing it for money. Thank you, and goodbye.